to Royce Auditorium, families and friends.
This evening's performance is a program we hope you enjoy, A Christmas Carol.
The author of this book, Charles Dickens, was a great English writer.
Among his other famous novels are David Copperfield and Oliver Twist.
Dickens came from a family of 8 children and lived most of his life in London.
His childhood was dismal and food was often scarce.
In fact, his family was so penniless that poor Charles worked in a shoe factory when he was our age, 11 or 12.
His memory of this job was so bad, he seldom spoke of it.
School was a place he attended off and on.
Actually, his mother didn't like it when he did attend school, because that meant his family did not get the money he would have earned.
Needless to say, he never finished school.
Charles Dickens had such abundant energy, he often took long walks.
He began to know the streets and alleys of London better than any other person of his time.
As a result, he based stories on what he saw around him.
He often used his own family as the characters.
In the 1840s, when he was desperate for money during holidays, he wrote Christmas stories. One of these was A Christmas Carol.
This evening's program offers you the musical adaptation to this traditional Christmas story.
We are fortunate to have the original score written in 1951 by Miss Eloise Johnson.
Mrs. Johnson is a past president of the St. Cecilia Music Society, and we would like to thank her for her wonderful work.
We would also like to extend our appreciation to Mr. Wright Carver for his energetic help with the choir. Conducting the City High Orchestra for this performance.
We are also grateful to the Music Society for the honor of performing on this stage.
And now, dear audience, please enjoy Miss Johnson
and our gift to you, A Christmas Carol.
solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out in a great voice. A frosty rime was on his head, on his eyebrows, and his royal chin. Nobody ever stopped him with a gladsome "How are you?" No beggars implored him, or children asked him what o'clock it was. Even the blindest dog would appear to know him, and when they saw him coming on, would tug their owners in the doorways and up courts. But what did Scrooge care? It was the very thing he liked, wanting all human sympathy to keep in its distance.
was fain to go with his hands. Now, it was a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large. Then, let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker not a knocker, but Marley's face! Marley's face! Scrooge was not a man frightened. He looked up again and saw that it was a knocker. So, he put his hand on the key, turned stealthily, walked in, and lighted his candle. He fastened the door, walked across the hall and up the stairs, slowly too, trimming his candle as he went.
Up Scrooge went. Before he shut his heavy door, he walked through the room to see that all was right. He had just enough recollection of Marley's face to do that. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet, nobody in his dressing gown. Quite satisfied, he shut the door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he took off his tie, put on his dressing gown, slippers, and his nightcap, and sat down by the fire. It was a very low fire indeed. He was obliged to sit close to it to get the least sensation of warmth from it. Yet, that face of Marley, 7 years dead, came on and swallowed the fire. Humbug, said Scrooge, and walked across the room. After several turns, sat back down again. His glance came to rest upon a bell, which, as he looked, began to swing. Soon it rang out loudly, so that every bell in the house. Soon the bell ceased, and followed by a clanking noise from deep down below, as if someone was dragging a heavy chair. The cellar door flew open with a booming sound. The noise was much louder on the floors below, coming up the stairs, coming straight towards his door. And what passed through that heavy door and came into the room right before his eyes? Marley's ghost!
Mercy,
by the first spirit when the bell tolled 1. At length the hour began, and Scrooge counted the chimes.
give each a Merry Christmas as they parted for their homes. What was Merry Christmas to old Scrooge?
Out upon Merry Christmas, what good had it ever done him? Scrooge sighed upon the ghost of Christmas past, and through afterwards he pressed down the Lord's mind, a spirit stronger yet repulsed him. Exhausted, Scrooge found himself back in his own bedroom and sank into a deep sleep.
High up to shed Scrooge with him, holding to his room. On the threshold of the door, the spirit smiled and stopped to bless the home with the sprinkling of his torch. There was Mrs. Cratchit in a twice-turned gown, braid and ribbons. As she prepared Christmas dinner, she was assisted by the young Cratchit, who danced around the table. Later from church came Bob Cratchit with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. But the whole scene passed off with the words of Tiny Tim, and Scrooge and the spirits were again on their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited. It was a long night. The chimes were ringing, 11:03 at that moment. For a ghost, and saw it not. The bell struck 12. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, Scrooge remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him.
and looked in. It was the office, still, but not his. The furniture was not the same, and the thing in the chair was not him. The spirit moved away, and Scrooge joined it again. They came to an iron gate, a churchyard overrun with grass and weeds. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and read upon the stone of this neglected grave his own name: Ebenezer Scrooge!
Holding up his hands in one last prayer to have his fate reversed, Scrooge saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrank, collapsed, and dwindled down into the bedpost. Yes, the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own to make amends in. He had been sobbing violently in the conflict with the spirit, and his face was wet with tears. Hearing church bells ringing, he ran to the window, opened it up, and put out his head. No fog, no mist, clear, bright, stirring cold, golden sunlight, heavenly sky, sweet, fresh air, merry bells. It was Christmas Day. He dressed himself in all his best. And at last got out into the streets. He went to church and walked about, watched the people hurrying to and fro, patted children on the head, questioned beggars, and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that anyone could give him so much happiness. He became as good a friend, as good a master, as good a man as the old city knew. His heart laughed, and that was good enough for him. It was always said of